Okay, Breakfast Club, Newcomb's Ranch. We had a bit of an incident and we had to call one of these.
Charlie Brown's teacher said it's time to stay on the road.
This was not, I repeat, not a professor run.
No affiliation with your fascination either.
I think you killed the car.
That was down there. I love driving and BSing about classic Porsches. So how great would it be to take a killer road trip in an old 911 and visit a bunch of my best friends who love the same things? Oh, and while I'm on the trip, I thought I'd make a TV show about it. So let's drive the coolest cars on the best roads with the greatest people in America. I'm John Polnik, and you're coming with me on my Porsche road trip. Today on the road trip, we'll drive some cars on the infamous Crest with our friend Rod Emory and his son Zane. And my buddy Michael Deeb will tell you why it's not a great idea to lend someone your RS America.
We were both looking out our side windows, looking for some evidence like a car on the side of the cliff or something, and we didn't find anything.
All on this episode of Porsche Road Trip with me, John Polnik.
I ain't no collector. You drive them things and I might respect ya.
If you're one of those people who loves to spend countless hours watching videos about classic cars on the internet, you've no doubt seen this place where most of those videos were probably shot. It's known by locals simply as the Crest. The miles of undulating turns, steep cliffs, and never-ending vistas are tied together by roads named Angeles Highway, Upper and Lower, Big and Little Tujunga, Santa Clara Divide, Pacifico Mountain, Angeles Crest, and many, many more. If you love driving, this is heaven. There may be no one person that knows the Crest better than our friend and legendary Porsche 356 builder, Rod Emory. Today on the road trip, we visit him and his son Zane, who will, for the first time, drive together as father and son on the only road as synonymous to classic Porsches as their family name. After all, it was Rod's grandfather and Zane's great-grandfather who invented what is known today as the outlaw Porsche.
The origin of our family is centered around Porsche.
Really, for me, these Porsches have always been a part of my life. I mean, growing up, heck, my dad took my mom to the hospital the day I was born and in a 66 911 with fat fenders and probably broke the speed limit, getting there and then taking me back home. So did I really have a choice to be, entrenched in this
born into it,
Porsche culture? No, I was kind of born into it. Amy and I, when we first got married, we had a little Honda Civic that was, kind of our economical car, and then I talked her into buying a 911. It turns out that was the car that I then took Amy to the hospital when Zane was born, and so it's kind of like, 20-something years later, the cycle begins again. As I look back now, I didn't realize that I was doing what my dad did 20 years earlier, but that's in fact, what I did, and that culture has kind of, been ingrained in you as well. And so naturally, when it was time for you to get a car, you gravitated towards a Porsche and worked really hard so that you could get one.
I didn't have a Porsche for my first car, which I don't think a 16-year-old should when they're just first learning how to drive, but I ended up getting a Cayman S in 2009. I'm really fortunate to own a Porsche, and not many 18-year-olds can say that. And I recognize that, and I'm proud of it, because for me it's not just a car. I mean, this is a brand that's been involved in my life since the very beginning. It connects us together as a family.
Most of our best friends have some connection to this brand, There's a sense of kind of brotherhood and family pride that comes into us that drive Porsches.
And if you don't own one, or if you did own one at some point in your life, you still feel a part of the culture.
Yeah, I mean, when we go to Cars and Coffee, for example, it's a way that we go and connect with our friends. I mean, these cars have created a culture and a camaraderie that are unlike anything I've ever seen.
It's been involved at the start of our life, and it'll probably be just as important at the end of our lives.
You know, I'm into the 356s. They're in my blood. It's what I've been building. But I think that, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, I want a car that I can, you know, just put on a pedestal and show somewhere, this isn't the place for them. I mean, for me, it's about building a car that's going to build memories and experiences for them, because that's a part of what I am.
If you've ever met anyone from the Emory family, you know the meaning of authenticity. That truth is like an almost tangible feeling you get when you experience one of their unique builds. 1 second behind the wheel, and you know an Emory-built car is on a mission.
There's no greater pleasure for me than to see people actually use and drive these cars and enjoy them. It's like a gift that I want to share with people, that it can be more than just a car. For me, it was a pretty surreal morning, because I was in one of the cars that I've built, and that was your first time really driving the RS at speed, and to be looking in the mirror and I could see the expressions on your face. The grin was there the whole time. And I think that, you know, it was a pretty amazing experience to be able to kind of rip through the hills today and enjoy that with you. And, yeah, I mean,
thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
When Rod and Zane say their best friends come from Porsche, they mean it, and I'm honored to be among them. Like the Emorys, I agree with the sentiment, as most of my best friends also come from this unique fraternity. I also think that that's one of the great things about the Crest. Drive it, and you're sure to see or make a friend. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Unlike most other places blessed with magnificent roads, the Crest is less than an hour out of Los Angeles, a place where winter isn't really a thing. So cars like classic air-cooled 911s never have to worry about non-functioning heat exchangers that won't defrost a foggy windshield, or roads too slippery for a tail-happy rear-engine vintage car to stick to in a corner. But nearly perfect driving conditions are not the case for all 365 days a year. Every now and then, this benign garter snake will grow fangs and turn into a cobra. Michael, you're one of the nicest guys I know. Last winter, you lent your RSA to a friend from out of town so we could drive the Crest. What were the roads like?
Right, so when we got up there, certain parts of the road still had a lot of gravel and debris on the road, and they had only recently been cleared.
Was your buddy prepared for that?
Knowing that he grew up in Budapest, where at least a third of the year there's snow on the ground, I naturally felt that he's a competent driver that can handle a car in pretty much any conditions.
Okay, so we had breakfast. What happened after that?
We went off down the mountain, and after about a mile, I kind of kicked it in gear, and I kind of left him alone behind me.
Uh-oh.
So driving for a little while, I realized I couldn't see him any longer behind me in the mirror, so I pulled over to the side of the road to wait for him. At that point, my heart was in my stomach. And
well, yeah, I remember I asked you where he was, and the moment I told you that I hadn't seen him, you and Esther took off up the mountain back towards Newcomb's Ranch. What was that drive like?
Yeah, so neither one of us were looking out the windshield. We were both like looking out our side windows, looking for some evidence, like the car on the side of the cliff or something, and we didn't find anything all the way up to Newcomb's. And that was gut-wrenching. That was the worst 25 minutes.
It was weird because the air smelled like fresh dirt on the corner just before where you were waiting for us. But you were gone before I could even tell you that. So that's where we went to look.
Right. We start to head back down the mountain from Newcomb's Ranch, and within a quarter mile, we see Ben, the professor. He rolls down the window and says, "We found him. He went off the road, but he's okay." It's like the first time in 20 minutes we could exhale. And I think more than anything, I was just relieved that my friend was alive. Like it was really fucking scary.
So what happened when you finally saw it?
The first thing he did was close his eyes in front of me and apologize for wrecking the car. And I just put my arms around him and I said, I'm just glad you're okay. He turned around, he looked down the hill, he pointed at the car and he said, Michael, that car saved my life.
See you on the crest, where it's best.
Even when the crest is at its most venomous, there are those who would, and almost always do, throw caution to the wind. Most of my friends live the outlaw Porsche ethos that the Emory family started decades ago, taking what Porsche built and making it their own with performance modifications to their cars like suspension, wheel, and powertrain upgrades. On a road like the crest that's all too happy to fight those who would disrespect her, driving her on a good day in a heavily modded car like the one my friend Derek Whitacher has built is like flipping dual birds right in the face of the serpent. Oh, and today, it's raining.
The obsession with Porsches, it wasn't an old thing that I had since childhood. It was something I developed like 11 years ago. My buddy, Redu, he's a car designer. And so we were talking about cars. And he decided out of the blue that he wanted a 911. And I was kind of like, eh. And then he got this 82 911 SC. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that is badass. That is so cool. A couple days later, we go up on Mulholland Drive. He handed me the reins for a little bit. Yeah, I instantly was like, I gotta have one of these. I got obsessed before I even got one. I kind of spent the next 9 months to a year looking for one. I bought my SC. It was perfect. It was like almost bone stock with some minor upgrades. And I saw this car on Pelican. It was a 74 with like Carrera flares, but it had this big turbo motor in it. They had laid out the intercooler underneath the ducktail, and it was very sleeperish. And I was attempting to do that, but it just wasn't working, and my mechanic was sort of fighting with me. And he was actually right, because there just wouldn't be enough air getting to the intercooler. So I said, well, just cut a hole in it, because let's go punk rock, man. Let's just have the intercooler sitting out there, which I thought was the most rock and roll thing ever, and he didn't get it, and he fought me every step of the way. So now there's this giant intercooler sticking out of the tail of a non-intercooled turbo tail, because I like that tail. And now it's a 420 wheel horsepower turbo in a narrow body 911, which some people seem to think is kind of a crazy thing to do, but it's still rock and roll, because that's... I'm a musician, I'm a composer, but I come from metal and rock and roll and trip hop and industrial music and things like that. So I like things with an edge and things that not necessarily other people would do. If there's a more difficult way to do it, I'll probably do it that way. I could have just rebuilt the motor in it and, with some upgrades, and I probably would have been totally happy. But no, I decided, well, I can spend twice as much money and have twice as much power, and then you got to replace the transmission, you got to replace everything in the drivetrain, you got to upgrade the brakes. Basically, the whole underside of the car was replaced because I didn't know when to stop. Slippery slope, as they say. Ironically, musically, I'm more into less, but with the car, I go more. So, I don't know, I'm probably compensating for something. There's no reason to do this. It's not even a phallic contest. It's just, you go fast, and you go faster, and you go faster, and you go like, I have to keep pushing it. Really what changed it was when we started going to Mexico for Targa Baja. what happens is the federales kind of go, have at it, and we run flat out for a few days through the deserts and the mountains in Baja, and then party every night in between. But there's this one-upmanship that goes on, so you go like, ah, man, I can't stand being passed by that guy. It's not gonna happen again. Comes time, like, Baja's coming up, let's rebuild that motor. This is the car that should have been here, but it broke. What happened? I built a huge turbo motor for it. 2 years in a row, turbos didn't make it. Last year, a friend of mine, his car bit the dust on the first day. This year, another couple gentlemen had their 930 explode on the first day. And yeah, it was sort of a relief going like, kind of glad I didn't bring mine before it was completely sorted out. But, you know, it all works out. Did you really leave that in TJ?
I have something called blowback. I don't really know what that means.
I love the running joke of when I bought my first car. Oh, midlife crisis. Oh, you bought it to get girls. I'm like, no, cause this, no. You're gonna make me look like a Porsche asshole. That's me. That guy's a dick.
Release is good. We're here. This inviting yet dangerous road really is a place that, if you're a Porsche enthusiast, feels like home. It's kind of like classic Porsches themselves. When you drive one, it feels like it was made just for you. Driving the Crest, you get the sense that it too was made just for you. When we made this film about our friend Derek Whitacher, we met another Derek running his 911 on the Crest that day. Other Derek, as he became known, was a young man of only 20 years at the time. Armed with an irresistible charm, he was already brimming with a passion for classic Porsches.
My name is Derek Tantisaladchai, and this is my father's 1989 Carrera Silver Edition. Hopefully it'll be mine one day, assuming he doesn't sell it off. Yeah, I don't have my own 911 because I'm a broke college student right now. I should probably tell my dad thanks and also hope that he doesn't see this film. When you're looking at classic cars and stuff, the great thing about looking at old Porsches is that you just know they're gonna work. There's a reason there's so many of them out there right now. I mean, any event you go to with classic cars, 90% of them will be Porsche just because they last. Me and my father were looking at a 911 turbo slant nose Targa. We showed pictures of the car to my mom, and she just absolutely hated how it looks. She didn't like the Targa top, and so she was just against it from day one. So we found a '89 Mondial T Coupe Ferrari. Mom loved the look, it was bright red. So of course she said to get that instead. My father and I flew out to Georgia to pick it up actually. And being classic Italian, it broke down halfway. So I flew back, my dad stayed with the car, and ever since then it parked more than it ran. We never let my mom live that down, so now whenever we find something cool, she just doesn't even want to hear it. She just lets us do what we do, and it's how we end up with this. The Targa Baja is a classic rally through Mexico, which you have to bring a classic car. So just thought we'd take the most reliable car we could, and that was the Porsche. You know, a lot of millennials nowadays don't really care about cars, at least the way people used to care. We planned for a Targa Baja months in advance. I was trying to get a couple of my friends to go just to help me navigate and just help take care of things. It didn't really seem that interesting to them. It was just me and a bunch of old dudes driving around Mexico. So they didn't really put enough effort into making everything line up to go. Topped out at 140, wouldn't go any faster, but do I need to? But after I sent them all the pictures and the videos and just what we were doing out there, they all regret not going, and I had a couple more friends trying to hop in with me next year now. People that go to these Targa events are kind of next level. They're obviously very successful to be able to do the things they do to go to these events and have the cars they have. And Just being able to go at the age I am and tag along and just meet these people is just an amazing experience. Because, you know, I hope to be able to afford one of these one day. And, you know, these are just the kind of guys that can help me do it, and they know how to do it.
So, yep, giving me a ride because my car took a shit.
Ha 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 ha!